And we are a big group of experienced Toastmasters today. So what are the odds that nobody is going to be able to answer the question that I'm going to ask right now? We all know that when we speak in public, we divide the channel of the communication in two. We have verbal communication, that's the words, and non-verbal communication. That is the way we look, our posture, our hand gestures, and our facial expressions. Now, what about the tone of voice? Is that verbal or non-verbal? What do you think? Non-verbal? Now, this was a trick question because it's none of those. The answer is paraverbal communication. So we do use our voice, you use the words, but it's not in the content of the words, but how those words are expressed. So in the next 5 or 6 minutes, I'm going to tell you how you can use your voice to improve the clarity of your message. But I'm not only going to talk about your voice, that's a very broad subject. I'm going to talk about 2 specific controls that you can use to make your message clearer to your audience. And those are speech rate and pauses. So let's start with speech rate. What happened to most of us when we did our first speech in Toastmasters? Did anybody speak too slow? I don't think so. I think most of us spoke really fast as a product of our nervous action. So most speakers speak really fast. I read somewhere that in normal spoken conversational American English, somewhere between 120 and 150 words per minute. That's considered acceptable. But that's actually not important at all, because what is very important is the variability of the rate. Does it change? That is what's really important to make your message clearer. I'm going to give you a few examples. If you think about, for example, the agenda today, the advantage that this format has over spoken communication is that we can see different sizes of fonts, we can see spatial arrangement, and those and different thickness of the font. So this actually is giving us signals about the importance of every different word or section, okay? And we can do exactly the same with our speech rate. When we speak slower, we are indicating to the audience that this sentence is very important. I'm also giving you the time to process this sentence because it is very important. But then I can move on to a more or less important subject. So with the rate we're using, we indicate how important it is. And a good exercise to see this when you're listening to a speech is try to take notes. So this is especially useful for teachers. Try to take notes of what that person is seeing. If you can determine from the speech rate how important those words are, you can actually write a nice outline. Think about an outline. You have the title on top, right? And then you have the sections, section 1, and then you have the examples. So you can, if the audience can determine the structure of your speech from the rate at which you said your speech, your words, then you're doing a good job. Is that clear? Yes, I think so. Now, that's speech rate. More important words, you say them slower to give your audience time. But what about pauses? Pauses, again, is not a question of having pauses or not having pauses, but it's a question of where those pauses are. In spoken English, again, the sentences, most of the time, go like this. We start a sentence, and then we finish it. We say something, maybe a little bit longer, and then we finish it. This is where we want the pauses to be. Because this is like a little package. It's an idea, and I'm telling you, this is the idea. Go ahead and process it. Okay? Now, something that's very annoying is when somebody just goes and then pauses and sort of goes, and then just goes very quickly through a couple of things, and then it's not about, and then pauses and stops and see the opposite effect. If I don't do my pauses at the right places, I am not giving you these idea packages for you to process. So recap and summary. And the beauty of the whole thing is that you can use speech rate and pauses in tandem to add clarity to your speech and to add clarity to your message. You can underline sentences. You can underline the conclusion of your speech. You can underline the most important ideas by doing longer pauses at the beginning, at the end, and by slowing the rate of your speech. And you're very lucky, because today you have 2 people in the group that are really good at doing this naturally. It's Peter and Julia. And luckily for you, they're going to be speaking next. So this is the exercise for you. Pay attention to what they're saying, but also pay attention to how fast they're speaking or how slow they're speaking in different sections, and where they're placing the pauses, and how that tandem, that duo, is making their speech clearer for you. Thank you.